We got broken records, emotional farewells, promotion, relegation drama, titles won all across the world. The US men's national team's been announced, and Africa's most iconic fan is coming to the World Cup. This is D-Mac Daily. The 25-26 Premier League season is officially over. Thank God, am I right? I mean, the standard of football, the entertainment factor within the league has objectively regressed. And I'm not saying this solely to critique Arsenal. They were the league's best team by a comfortable margin in the end, having figured out the blueprint to dominate this new era of physical prowess. But understand, we've now got Premier League teams hiring MMA coaches as set-piece specialists, and it's literally working. Brighton conceded the least from corners alongside Arsenal this season. I feel like a boomer bemoaning the days of old at this point, but this is just painful to watch, especially when you then tune into the UCL and see what Bayern and PSG can produce. It's like watching a different sport entirely, but putting my monologue of the state of the Prem aside, Matchday 38 still conjured up some notable narratives, starting with Spurs, who have officially survived. Talk about an anti-climax, am I right? I'm starting to get why the Premier League deducted points from Everton. This lot low-key ruined the title race and then didn't show up on the final match day. Honestly, what is the point of Everton Football Club? But on a more serious note, fair play to De Zerbi. He arrived at a Spurs side that hadn't won in 13 league games in 2026. They were in a complete freefall, battling an injury crisis that has continued to cause havoc. Yet ultimately, he has still gotten them over the line. Everyone will clown on them for celebrating survival like this, but understand relegation would have been so unimaginably catastrophic for the club. I fully understand the relief of the entire fan base. Also, the way Kinski has bounced back is worthy of praise. That UCL nightmare felt like the end of his entire career at the elite level. To mentally recover from that disaster class so quickly, being thrown back in the deep end during such a critical moment, and subsequently excelling, that is a testament to his resilience. So Spurs remain in the Premier League whilst their North London neighbours lift the trophy at Selhurst Park, having defeated Palace to close out their stellar campaign. 22 years in the making for this moment. They trusted the process and were ultimately rewarded. But elsewhere in London, the vibes were completely different as West Ham were officially relegated despite a dominant 3-0 win at home to Leeds on the final day. You got a feel for the Hammers. This was the highest points tally of a relegated side in the last decade, but there's still no denying it's been a pretty shambolic campaign. They didn't strengthen adequately in the summer, and then in the end, Nuno Espirito Santo was unable to course correct. And you best believe now, they're about to get raided in the upcoming transfer window. The likes of Bowen, Somerville, Fernandez, Doof, Mavropanos, see you later. A massive rebuild will almost certainly be on the cards. I will say though, West Ham v Millwall, get your popcorn ready. That is going to be insane. Meanwhile, Bruno Fernandes has officially broken the Premier League's assist record, whipping in a delivery for Dorgu of all people to head home. He then got on the scoring act himself to make it 30 goal involvements in total for the season. A great individual campaign from the Portuguese skipper, and a great second half of the season for the Red Devils under Carrick too, finishing third in the league on 71 points. We also saw some fitting farewells this weekend, starting with Man City, and Pep Guardiola's decade-long spell has officially come to an end, albeit an underwhelming end as Unai Emery's Villa came away with all 3 points at the Etihad to solidify 4th place. But considering the 20 trophies Pep's accumulated since arriving in England, job well done for the Catalan, with Enzo Maresca set to take over next season. There were also emotional farewells for City players John Stones and Bernardo Silva. In addition to that, they brought back Gundogan and Edison for a proper send-off. A nice touch for 4 brilliant servants of the club. Speaking of goodbyes, and the Egyptian king Mo Salah and legendary fullback Andy Robertson bid farewell to the Anfield faithful over the weekend. Liverpool were unable to secure a win in their final outing. However, Salah still bowed out in style. A delicate outside of the foot assist for Curtis Jones to break the club's assist record, overtaking Steven Gerrard in his final appearance. Look, the final season clearly didn't go according to plan for Salah, but this man still leaves Liverpool as one of the greatest to ever wear the shirt. For Brentford, however, they'll be bitterly disappointed. They came oh so close to scoring in the last kick of the game, a goal that would have secured them Europa League football. Instead, they finish in 9th place and miss out entirely as Brighton qualify for the Conference League, with Sunderland and Bournemouth securing Europa League qualification. Bournemouth picking up a point away at Forest to keep their 18 league game unbeaten run intact. That is genuinely insane. Speaking of insane, newly promoted Sunderland in the Europa League. To be fair, they didn't face an almighty task on the final match day, coming up against the biggest frauds in England, but still, what an unbelievable season they've had. The team that came up via the playoffs has exceeded expectations all season long, doing the double over their bitter rivals Newcastle as well. The players and Reggie Labrie deserve all the plaudits. As for their opponents Chelsea, the nightmare of 25-26 is over. How can you describe this team, man? Streets will forget. Memorable on their day. It was fitting that they closed out the campaign with a red card too. Is there a delete club option available at this point? Xabi Alonso, my man. If you want to back out now, honestly, I wouldn't even be mad. The most expensively assembled squad in football history just finished 10th behind a newly promoted club. Shambles. Staying in English football, and technically the Premier League too, as Hull City have prevailed in football's most lucrative fixture, defeating Middlesbrough 1-0 at Wembley, with the GOAT himself, Ollie McBurney, delivering the goods in the 95th minute. Absolute limbs as their talisman came in clutch. Bit of a keeper blunder too, but full credit to Hull. It was a defensively robust performance, and they've managed to pull off the most unlikely of returns to the Prem. Remember, these guys only narrowly crept into the playoffs on the final match day of the championship as Hollywood FC fell to a draw. They then unexpectedly took out high flyers Millwall before getting the job done at Wembley. It's gonna be a tall order surviving the Prem next season. Everybody's already writing them off to go straight back down. But hey, look at what Sunderland accomplished, having also gone up via the playoffs. Anything is possible. Switching gears to Spain, and it was a wild end to La Liga. Ironically, it was a relatively calm end to Real Madrid's 25-26, defeating Bilbao at home 4-2. Mbappe getting on the score sheet to confirm his second straight Pichichi award. Arbeloa bowed out alongside club legend Dani Carvajal too. He received a fitting send-off in his 451st and final appearance for the club. Meanwhile, Griezmann waved goodbye to Atletico Madrid in what was a pretty disastrous end, really. Battered 5-1 by Villarreal. Not a great way to go out. Similarly, Lewandowski's final appearance would be marked by a loss away at Valencia, but at least he managed to get on the score sheet and was also treated to a standing ovation from the entire stadium at full time. But onto the real drama of Matchday 38 in La Liga, and it was the relegation battle as Elche held firm away at Girona in a 1-1 draw, a result that sees the home side go down in 19th place. Mallorca will also be joining them in the second tier of Spain, despite winning 3-0 on the final match day. Muriki's 23rd La Liga goal wasn't enough as they go down due to their inferior head-to-head record on all three teams that finished on 42 points, which led to perhaps my favorite moment of the entire weekend. Osasuna fell to a 1-0 defeat away at Getafe. Now, a pitch invasion immediately followed as the home side secured Europa Conference League qualification. But as Osasuna then found out they'd remained in La Liga at full time, they proceeded to basically join Getafe in the celebrations. I can't recall ever seeing both teams celebrating a pitch invasion at full time. The beautiful game is simply undefeated. Meanwhile, in the Serie, stocks were in store. Roma secured a big win away at Verona to clinch UCL football. Daniel Malin, the January loanee, bagged his 14th goal of the season to finish equal second top scorer, whilst Dybala grabbed 2 assists in what's believed to be his final outing with the club. Meanwhile, Como have reached the Champions League for the first time ever, following a 4-1 win away at Cremonese. This lot were in the 4th tier of Italy just 7 years ago, and now they're going to be mixing it with the world's best. They got the richest owners in Italian football and Cesc Fabregas at the helm. This club is clearly going places. Unlike Milan and Juventus though, who have bottled it on the final day of the season. Milan were 1-0 up in the first minute at home to Cagliari before 2 sloppy goals saw them miss out on UCL football entirely. A disastrous end to the season for Allegri's men. It was a similar story with Juventus too. They were 2-0 up in the Turin derby, Vlahovic locking in when it mattered most, scoring a brace before before they were undone by 2 set-piece goals by the home side, with the game finishing 2-2. So 2 Italian giants will have to settle for Europa League football next season. Meanwhile, there were trophies lifted all over the world this weekend, starting with Lens, who defeated Nice 3-1 to lift the Coupe de France for the first time in the club's 120-year history. One of the biggest overachievers of Europe's top 5 leagues. They pushed PSG all the way in Liga and now have a trophy to show for their amazing season. The final itself was played at the Stade de France, but upon victory, the winners then took the trophy straight back home, presenting it in their packed out stadium at 4 a.m. That was the pretext to another wild day of celebrations throughout the city of Lens. That's what it's all about. We also saw Bayern lift the DFB Pokal over the weekend in a 3-0 win over Stuttgart. Harry Kane bagging a hat-trick to make it 61 goals for the season at club level. Bro, that is outrageous. That's prime Messi Ronaldo territory. 68 GA in 51 games. Ridiculous. Speaking of ridiculous, and second tier side Torrens, I believe that's how it's pronounced, have defeated Sporting in extra time to win the Taco de Portugal, the first second tier club to ever win the trophy. That is a miraculous achievement. Understand, their biggest honor prior to this weekend was winning the second tier of Portugal 71 years ago. Just unbelievable stuff. Now, this club is still actively chasing promotion. They've got a playoff second leg against Casa Pia remaining, so they could still reach the top flight of Portugal next season. But either way, they have secured Europa League qualification. Meanwhile, in Argentina, further history has been made as Belgrano won the Apertura final, defeating powerhouse club River Plate 3-2 to win their first major trophy in the club's entire 121-year history. But we're not done. Moving down under, and it was a sad weekend for me personally, as my local club Sydney FC fell short in the A-League Grand Final, with Auckland FC crowned champions. Now, not gonna lie, painful watch. Objectively, it wasn't a great game of football, but fair play to Auckland. This club's only existed for 2 years and has now accomplished what Wellington couldn't. The first New Zealand club to become A-League champions. They did it in front of a sold-out crowd too. A brilliantly run club from day one, and a great addition to the A-League in its entirety. Now quickly for some international news, and the US men's national team roster for the upcoming World Cup Soccer Premier Championship is here. Pulisic is coming, y'all. Now, as to my actual thoughts on the squad, and I gotta say, Neil Kennedy has been robbed. In all seriousness though, it's not an incredible squad, is it? Obviously, losing Cardoso and Tessman is big in midfield. Musa not getting in the team too is a bit of a surprise, I guess, but he's fallen off in recent years. The glaring weak spots are the goalkeeping and center back options. Bar Chris Richards, it's not looking great. Their fullbacks are strong. McKennie and Adams are top midfielders, but the lack of depth in that position is a concern. Going forward, it's decent, but not incredible. On a more positive note though, Folarin Balogun is coming into this tournament in fantastic club form from Monaco. So look, overall, it's not a bad squad, but I'm not expecting a deep run in this tournament. I think they'll reach the knockout stages, perhaps a round of 16 appearance, but anything further than the quarterfinals seems very unlikely. However, crazier things have happened, so only time will tell. And now to close out today's episode, we got some awesome news over the weekend. The Democratic Republic of Congo's Superfan, who went viral at AFCON back in January, will now be present at this year's World Cup. So flights, accommodation, match tickets, and all expenses have been covered, including securing his visa. If you're unaware of the context behind Congo's Superfan and why he stands still with his right arm raised for the full 90 minutes, he's paying homage to their former president Patrice Lumumba, who back in the 60s had hopes of nationalizing his country's vast mineral wealth in order to uplift his people. But the colonial occupiers of Belgium would collaborate with the CIA to oust him from power, where he was then horrifically assassinated, an outcome which has led to further generations of unjust oppression for the Congolese people. So to this day, he remains a symbol of resistance against colonial exploitation in its entirety. It looks cool when you see him in the stadium, but this is bigger than football. This is speaking truth to power through political expression. So I can't wait to see this absolute icon in a few weeks' time. Anyways, guys, that's all for today's DMAC Daily. I'll see you tomorrow.